First contact fallout. Dr. Elena Rice squinted at her monitor in the darkness of the Atacama Large Millimeter Array control room. The anomalies had appeared 3 days ago, perfectly symmetrical formations moving toward Earth at impossible speeds. She'd triple-checked her calculations before alerting her superiors, and now the entire global scientific community was in an uproar. The objects will reach Earth orbit in approximately 48 hours, she explained to the emergency United Nations video conference. Her voice remained steady, despite the growing knot in her stomach. Based on their controlled movements and formation patterns, these are unquestionably artificial structures. We are not alone, and whoever they are, they're coming here. The screens around her displayed the faces of world leaders, their expressions ranging from disbelief to barely contained panic. The Chinese premier cleared his throat. What are their capabilities? Their intentions? Unknown, Elena replied. But each vessel is approximately 3 kilometers in length. We're looking at a fleet of over 500 ships. The room fell silent. Humanity's combined naval forces couldn't match even a fraction of that firepower. Within hours, military bases worldwide went to maximum alert. Civilians crowded stores for supplies or fled cities for the countryside. Religious leaders called for calm while secretly wondering if ancient apocalyptic prophecies were unfolding. When the alien fleet arrived, they positioned themselves in a perfect geometric pattern above Earth's major cities. For 12 hours, they remained silent, their massive obsidian ships blocking sunlight and casting enormous shadows across terrified populations below. Then, every communication device on the planet simultaneously broadcast the same message. People of Earth, we are the Krivax Dominion. Your world has been selected for integration. Surrender your governments and resources. Resistance is futile and will result in planetary sterilization. You have 24 hours to comply. In an underground bunker beneath the Rocky Mountains, the hastily assembled Earth Defense Council debated humanity's options. We can't fight them conventionally, General Zhao of China stated flatly. Our nuclear arsenals would be insignificant against their technology. And surrender means extinction or enslavement, countered President Okafor of the African Union. Either immediately or gradually, they'll eliminate us. Dr. Rice, invited as a scientific advisor, spoke up. Their message revealed something crucial. They called us people of Earth. Not humans or Homo sapiens. They don't know us. They've observed our planet, but they don't understand who we are. Former Marine and now Secretary of Defense Maya Hernandez nodded slowly. They expect us to behave like every other species they've conquered, but they've never met humans before. Then let's show them exactly who they're dealing with, said the Russian president, a rare smile crossing his face. When the 24-hour deadline expired, the Krivax received an unexpected response. Major cities had been evacuated. Military bases stood empty. No formal surrender was transmitted. Confused, the Krivax commander, Supreme Overseer Drakmar, ordered demonstration strikes against New York, Shanghai, and Cairo. Energy weapons from orbit reduced targeted areas to molten glass. The attacks were broadcast globally by the aliens, expecting the psychological impact to force immediate capitulation. Instead, the response was silence. Then, 12 hours later, the Krivax lost contact with 3 landing parties in different locations. Impossible, Drakmar hissed to his officers, his scaled skin flushing with rage. These primitives have barely achieved spaceflight. How could they neutralize our ground forces? The truth was both simple and terrifying for the aliens. Humanity hadn't fought as expected. When the first Krivax scouts landed in the abandoned city of Boston, they found no resistance. Their sensors detected no large military formations, no defensive positions. What they failed to detect were the small groups of civilians and soldiers hiding in subway tunnels, using the city's infrastructure against the invaders. The Krivax, evolved from pack-hunting predators, fought in terms of direct confrontation. They weren't prepared for guerrilla tactics employed by beings they considered inferior. Outside Johannesburg, A Krivax patrol disappeared after drinking from a seemingly abandoned water supply, contaminated with a compound harmless to humans, but toxic to the aliens' biology. In the forests of Finland, hunters who had stalked moose and bear for generations now tracked alien patrols, using their knowledge of the terrain to deadly effect. Drakmar expanded the orbital bombardment, targeting infrastructure and agricultural regions, but humans had already begun dispersing food supplies and creating hidden networks. Ancient caves became command centers. Abandoned mines housed makeshift factories. For every 10 humans killed, 100 more joined the resistance. In a converted airplane hangar in the Australian outback, Dr. Maya Chen carefully dissected a captured Krivax soldier. The alien's biology was fascinating. Copper-based blood, triple-jointed limbs, and most importantly, respiratory organs designed for an atmosphere with much higher nitrogen content than Earth's. Their suits aren't just for protection, she explained to the military observers. They're life support. Our air is poisonous to them without filtration, and those communication devices they carry, they're dependent on a specific frequency pattern. This information spread rapidly through the human resistance network. Within days, regional groups began targeting the aliens' breathing apparatus and communication systems. In Brazil, college students discovered they could disrupt Krivax communications by modifying old radio equipment to broadcast on overlapping frequencies. 3 weeks into the invasion, Drakmar faced an unprecedented situation. Despite controlling Earth's orbit and possessing vastly superior technology, his ground forces were being systematically eliminated. Cities the Krivax captured stood empty and useless. Resources they sought were destroyed before they could be seized. The humans do not fight as predicted, his chief strategist admitted during a tense briefing. They do not confront our strengths. They target our weaknesses with precision. They adapt their tactics daily. And most disturbing, they appear to communicate and coordinate despite our jamming of their global networks. Unknown to the Krivax, humanity had reverted to older technologies, shortwave radio, courier networks, even modified Morse code. Indigenous knowledge of smoke signals and drum communications bridged gaps between high-tech resistance cells. As the first month of occupation ended, humanity achieved its first major victory. In the ruins of Silicon Valley, a team led by former tech executive turned resistance leader Amir Kauri successfully captured an intact Krivax shuttle. Within days, engineers and programmers from around the world had begun reverse engineering its systems. The Krivax, who had never encountered defeat in 17 previous planetary conquests, were facing an enemy unlike any they had encountered, one that grew stronger with each setback, that learned and adapted with terrifying speed, and that absolutely refused to acknowledge the possibility of defeat. Drakmar stared at the casualty reports with disbelief. His invasion force, originally projected to secure the planet within weeks, was now losing ground daily. Worse, his long-range sensors had detected strange activities in Earth's moon's shadow. Activities suggesting the humans had somehow adapted Krivax technology for their own use. Perhaps, his second-in-command suggested cautiously, we should consider withdrawing to regroup and reassess. Drakmar's eyes narrowed. Retreat. From primitives. The Dominion does not retreat. He turned to his weapons officer. Prepare the planet cleansing protocol. If we cannot have this world, neither will they. What Drakmar didn't know was that humans had already infiltrated his command ship, and they had been listening. The counteroffensive. Captain Sarah Mbeki had never expected to find herself inside an alien spacecraft. 6 months ago, she had been commanding a South African Special Forces unit. Now, wearing a stealth suit reverse-engineered from Krivax technology, she pressed against the wall of the alien flagship's ventilation system as sentries passed below. Her infiltration team, consisting of former special operators from 8 different nations, had been surgically modified by Dr. Chen to emit the same biochemical signatures as the Krivax, fooling the ship's internal sensors. Their mission was simple but crucial: plant quantum transmitters throughout the vessel to map its systems and transmit the data back to Earth. When they overheard Drakmar's planet-cleansing order, the mission parameters changed instantly. "We need to buy Earth time," Sarah whispered to her team. "We take out their main weapons array, even if we don't make it back." On Earth, the information transmitted by Sarah's team reached the underground command center in the Urals, where Amir Kauri's technology division had made a breakthrough. By combining stolen Krivax propulsion systems with human nuclear weapons, they had created crude but effective space-capable missiles. "We can't match their ships one-to-one," Amir explained to the Council. "But we don't need to. We just need to disrupt their formation and create openings for our infiltration teams." General Joe nodded. "The counteroffensive begins tomorrow. All cells are in position." The human counterattack started not with a frontal assault, but with a massive electromagnetic pulse from anti-gravity platforms hidden in the Marianas Trench. The pulse temporarily disrupted the Krivax fleet's communication network, causing confusion in their tightly coordinated defense grid. Simultaneously, resistance fighters worldwide attacked Krivax ground forces with newfound coordination. In the mountains of Afghanistan, fighters who had resisted human armies for generations led devastating ambushes against alien patrols. In the Amazon rainforest, indigenous guides helped resistance cells navigate terrain impenetrable to alien sensors. As the Krivax struggled to reestablish control, Sarah's team reached the flagship's main weapon control chamber. The alien technology was complex, but they had trained for months on captured systems. "Charges set," reported Jun Park, a former South Korean naval officer. "We have 3 minutes." Sarah nodded, knowing they likely wouldn't make it to their extraction point. "For Earth," she said simply, activating the detonator. The explosion ripped through the flagship's weapons control system just as Drakmar was preparing to initiate the planet cleansing protocol. Emergency containment fields activated, preventing catastrophic damage to the ship itself, but the planet killer weapon was disabled. In the confusion, humanity launched its makeshift space fleet, 67 vessels cobbled together from captured alien technology and human ingenuity. They weren't powerful enough to destroy the Krivax ships in direct combat, but they didn't need to be. Their goal was insertion, not destruction. Teams of human fighters breached 29 Krivax vessels before the aliens could mount an effective response. Once aboard, they implemented a virus developed by a coalition of programmers from India, Russia, and Senegal, a digital weapon that targeted the Krivax life support systems. Drakmar, recovering from the explosion in his flagship's weapons bay, received alarming reports from across his fleet. Human infiltrators were everywhere, and they were displaying a level of coordination that should have been impossible given the communication blackout his forces had imposed. What the Krivax never understood was how humans had repurposed the aliens' own subspace communication relays. Dr. Elena Reyes, working with quantum physicists from Japan and Germany, had discovered that the Krivax communications left a distinct quantum signature. By piggybacking on these signals, humans could communicate undetected across vast distances. In orbit, the makeshift human fleet engaged in seemingly suicidal attacks, drawing Krivax fire while disguising their true purpose, creating diversions for more infiltration teams. On the flagship's bridge, Drakmar received the most disturbing report yet. "Supreme Overseer, we have detected anomalies in our fleet's neural network. The humans have somehow accessed our command protocols." Before Drakmar could respond, the ship's lights flickered. The central view screen displayed not the expected tactical readout, but a human face. Dr. Elena Reyes. "Attention Krivax Dominion," she said, her voice calm but unyielding. "Your invasion has failed. We have compromised your fleet's life support and navigation systems. We control 30% of your vessels, with more falling to us each hour." Drakmar snarled. "This is deception. No primitive species cold. Your lead tactician Vrenkor was captured 3 days ago outside what you call Settlement Zone 7. Elena continued. He provided useful information about your fleet's command structure after we demonstrated our neural interface technology. You should also know that we've transmitted all captured Krivax technical data to 7 separate bunkers worldwide. Even if you destroy us, your technology has been compromised. For the first time in his long military career, Drakmar felt uncertainty. The humans weren't fighting like any species the Dominion had encountered. They should have been cowering, negotiating for survival. Instead, they had infiltrated his fleet, compromised his systems, and were now dictating terms. "We offer you one chance," Elena continued. "Withdraw your forces immediately, or we will be forced to demonstrate what happens when humanity is truly pushed to its limits. You have 1 hour to begin evacuation from our solar system." The transmission ended, leaving the bridge in stunned silence. "They're bluffing," Drakmar's second-in-command insisted. "They cannot possibly control our systems to that extent." As if in response, life support alarms blared across multiple decks. Environmental controls throughout the fleet began cycling randomly between extreme temperatures. On 27 ships, gravity generators failed simultaneously. Within the designated hour, the Krivax fleet began pulling back from Earth orbit. Drakmar, his authority now questioned by his own officers, had no choice but to order a retreat to regroup and reassess. The humans had not only resisted but had turned the Dominion's own technology against them, something no species had ever accomplished before. As the alien fleet departed, humanity began the process of rebuilding. The war had devastated infrastructure and taken millions of lives, but it had also united Earth's nations in unprecedented cooperation. The reverse-engineered Krivax technology accelerated human development by centuries. 6 months after the invasion, Dr. Elena Reyes stood before the newly formed United Earth Council. "We know they'll return," she said simply. "The Krivax Dominion has never accepted defeat, but next time, we'll be ready." In deep space, aboard the retreating flagship, Drakmar received a transmission from the Dominion High Command. His failure would be investigated. Exemplary punishment was likely. Yet as he prepared his defense, he found himself haunted by the memory of human fighters who had sacrificed themselves without hesitation, of primitive beings who had adapted Krivax technology within weeks, of a species that had somehow transformed from prey to predator before his eyes. For the first time in recorded history, the Krivax Dominion added a warning to the galactic navigation charts. Earth, approach with extreme caution. Indigenous species demonstrates unprecedented adaptive capabilities and resistance to standard pacification protocols. The galaxy would soon learn what the Krivax had discovered at terrible cost. Humans weren't just another species to be conquered. They were something new, something that thrived on adversity, that grew stronger from conflict, that simply refused to accept defeat. And now, thanks to the Krivax invasion, they were taking their first steps into the stars.